Why won't my blood sugar go down? Why are my blood sugar levels always high? Why is my diabetes out of control? In this video, I'm going to tell you 11 reasons why this may happen. The most common reasons, as I am an endocrinologist, a specialist in diabetes. I deal with this disease a lot, so I'm familiar with the most common causes. Let's get started. Reason number 1. You think your blood sugar levels are high, when in fact they are good. Hold on, I'm going to explain it to you. This is very common. Diabetics arrive at my office anxious, thinking they're out of control, when in fact their levels are good. What is a good level of glycated hemoglobin? This is the test that looks at the average blood sugar over the last 90 days. Generally, it's around 7%. In some cases, the doctor may tolerate slightly higher values, like 7.5%, for example, in patients who have a risk of hypoglycemia. In some cases, 6.5%, a slightly lower target, but around 7%. It's very common for patients to come with a value of 6.5%, a very good value, and they're anxious, stressed, thinking that value is too high. Oh, I wish I had a glycated hemoglobin of 4.5%, of 5%. When in fact, if you're diabetic, you don't need to have a very low value. On the contrary, it can even be dangerous for you. The same applies to the capillary blood glucose test. It's the fingertip test that you do with the glucose meter or the glucometer. Often, patients come thinking they have very high values. For example, after eating, if you have up to 180, or if you're watching from a country that uses millimoles per liter, 180 would be around 10. If you have up to 10, you'll be in control if you're diabetic. Why? After eating, it's normal for blood sugar to increase. What's bad is the glucose staying throughout the day. You don't normalize it, but right after the meal, it'll increase. That's physiological, it's natural. And the insulin spike isn't bad either. What's bad is when insulin can't work, and then your blood sugar rises. But in a natural physiological way, insulin increases afterward. The same applies to fasting capillary glucose. Right after you wake up, it's normal if you have diabetes up to 7.2, if it's millimoles per liter, or 130, if it's milligrams per deciliter. It depends on the country you're in. So, don't worry if you had a lower value than the ones I mentioned, okay? A diabetic doesn't need to have hypoglycemic values. This is a culture. It's information that you often receive on the internet that you should have very low values, when in fact it will hurt you. But I've already solved the problem for many people. Many people who thought they had high blood sugar got stressed about it, and then of course ended up increasing their blood sugar even more. And the second reason is linked to this one that I mentioned, which is stress management. Why? If you get too stressed, what's going to happen? Your body will release cortisol, it's going to release adrenaline, it's going to release hormones that increase blood sugar. So is it true that stress increases blood sugar in diabetics? Yes, that's true. Is this the same as emotional diabetes? No, that doesn't exist. This so-called emotional diabetes people talk about, it doesn't exist. Just because you get stressed, you won't become diabetic. Now, if you're already diabetic, you already have problems with the action of insulin. Or in the case of type 1 diabetes, you don't produce insulin. Or in type 2 diabetes, the insulin is resistant. It can't work. It can't take the sugar in the blood and put it inside the muscles. Then stress will make all of this worse. Then, yes, emotions do affect diabetes control. So, stress management is important. Sometimes people always have peaks in their blood sugar at the same time, which is when they go through a period of stress. So you have to be careful with that. The third reason is because you're sedentary. If you don't engage in physical activities, managing your diabetes will be much harder. If you have low muscle mass, for instance, muscle is a great helper. And if you don't engage in exercises, specifically resistance workouts like gym activities, swimming, or any weight-related exercise, controlling your diabetes will be more difficult. Not that it's impossible, definitely not, but it will be a lot harder. Quite often, simply adding a physical exercise routine results in better blood sugar level control. And how long should a good workout be each week? We aim for at least 150 minutes spread over 3 or more days in a week. So for instance, 50 minutes 3 days a week, or even 30 minutes just for 30 short minutes 5 times a week. That's one reason, a sedentary lifestyle. And the fourth reason, you're consuming too much sugar, but not merely sugar, excessive added sugar. Sometimes you might not even have sugar at home, right? That's sugar you put in your coffee. I hope you don't. But when I talk about sugar, I'm referring to simple carbohydrates. Like, for example, you're eating too much flour, you're eating too much cake, or too much rice, or too much pasta. Usually, it's going to be one of these three I've mentioned, okay? When I start questioning why someone can't control their blood sugar levels, it's because they're overeating any of these three foods. Is that your case? I hope not. You have to be careful with these foods that I mentioned. Number 5 is that you're not hydrating yourself the right way. The frequency of dehydration in diabetics is very, very high. When I worked in the emergency room, many patients came in dehydrated and their blood sugar was even higher, making them increasingly weak. So you need to maintain a minimum level of hydration, at least 30 milliliters per kilogram of weight, divided throughout the day. For example, if I weigh 100 kilograms, 100 times 30, I should drink at least 3 liters of water a day. Obviously, spread it out. Don't drink it all at once. So you have to make this effort to drink water, because that way you'll stay hydrated and will experience various benefits, not just for controlling diabetes, but also for your body. The 6th reason you have some illness besides diabetes that elevates blood sugar levels. Like, for example, a surplus of cortisol. You're experiencing something known as Cushing's syndrome. Then, blood sugar levels will rise due to increased cortisol production. Also, another disease called acromegaly, when growth hormone is produced in excess. Changes in the thyroid, changes that can be in either direction. Hyperthyroidism or hypothyroidism, an excess or a deficiency of thyroid hormones, can also impact blood sugar control. So, a general evaluation for these hormones and also for other diseases we already know that raise blood sugar levels needs to be done. If you have an autoimmune disease, you have to use corticosteroids, a medication that we already know will raise blood sugar levels. I'm not telling you to stop a type of treatment, I'm just explaining the reasons, because we already know that this can happen. Number 7, you're not eating fiber. You should eat at least 30 grams of fiber per day. Do you know if the foods you're consuming have fiber? This is essential, not just for your gut. People usually say, oh, I'm going to eat fiber because it's good for the gut. But fibers are great for diabetes because they slow down the absorption of carbohydrates, for example, lowering the glycemic index. If you add fibers, include chia or flaxseed in a fruit, for example, you will lower its glycemic index. How much will that fruit raise your blood sugar? So it's very beneficial. Apart from the other benefits of improving your satiety, you'll take longer to get hungry, which is also good for those with diabetes. You'll be more satisfied, you'll be more satiated. So, are you consuming fibers? What kinds of fibers do you consume? If you add chia or flaxseed, for example, to your diet in a very practical, easy way, you can hit that amount I mentioned of 30 grams per day. And oatmeal? Does oatmeal good for those with diabetes? I know you're going to ask that. No, oatmeal is not a good source of fiber for those with diabetes. Why? Most of the oatmeal's composition is carbohydrates, sugars, so you have better options. Not that oatmeal is bad. Oatmeal also has benefits in reducing cholesterol, for instance. But if you can choose those I mentioned with chia and flaxseed, that you're going to get a better deal and still lower your intake of sugars and carbohydrates. Number 8, you're overdoing it with healthy foods. Is this a common occurrence? I see it too when I converse with people with diabetes. I'm eating several avocados since I heard they're good for diabetes. Or I'm consuming peanuts, cashews. I eat hazelnuts because they contain good fats that help with diabetes. But these are extremely calorie-dense foods, from avocados to nuts, and even olive oil. What's the recommended daily intake of olive oil? 7 milliliters a day already provides heart health benefits and won't lead to excessive calorie intake. It's quite common for people to use too much olive oil. You really soak your salad in it, or use a lot while cooking. You have to be mindful of that. This is a major point here. Number 8, piling on healthy foods in excess. Just because it's healthy doesn't mean you can eat it without any guilt. On the contrary, these calorie-dense foods will worsen your blood sugar control in the long run, because with the excessive calories, you'll gain weight, and the fatty tissue, the adipose tissue, hinders the action of insulin and further increases insulin resistance. And 9th, you don't have a routine. It's very important that you have a routine if you're diabetic or even if you're not. Everyone needs to have a time to wake up and a time to go to bed. Not that it's 100% of the time. If you have a party or a graduation, then in that case you can sleep a little later. It doesn't have to be exact, but you should have a routine. On most days, you should go to sleep and wake up at the same time or at very close times, because then your body understands. What happens if you keep changing your sleep routine? One day you sleep on time, another day much later, then much earlier. Your body can't figure out how it should produce hormones, like cortisol, for example, which regulates our circadian cycle. So, if you don't have a routine, it's going to make it very difficult to control your diabetes. And reason number 10 is that you have really strong genetics for having diabetes. Often you do the exact same thing as others and end up with extremely high blood sugar levels. For this one, I can't tell you how to fix it. You'll just have to tighten your control a bit more. It's somewhat unfair, I know, but we are aware of genes that worsen insulin resistance. Some even cause it. So it's a rather thankless issue, I understand, but you're going to need much tighter, much stricter control compared to people with better genetics who don't carry the same genes. Often certain medications are more indicated than others. I won't go into too much detail on this topic here, but I could make a video solely about the main genes that affect diabetes and also how to identify it. There are tests, but that would be a rather specific video. I would be going on for too long here. If you want to know about diabetes with a genetic origin, what are the main types? Write in the comments and I'll create content for you just on this topic. And the 11th reason why your blood sugar doesn't decrease is that you nibble a lot. Every time you pass the kitchen, every time you pass the living room, you pick something up. If you nibble a lot, you too, besides managing an excess of calories, you will greatly impair your glycemic control. Often, people only manage to realize that they are nibbling a lot when I ask them to keep a diary, to write down everything they are eating during the day, and the person really sees, wow, look at how much I nibble, how I pick up various foods during the day. On a scale of 0 to 10, what score would you give to this video? If it's 10, I'll make more videos like this. Also write in the comments from where in the world you're watching this video, because I'm talking from Porto Alegre. I want to know where this video is reaching. Now I'm going to leave a suggestion for you. It's a video where I talked about 11 foods that are great for those with diabetes. Have you seen some healthy foods? Do you want to know about other great foods? In this video here, you will learn more about this information. A hug. See you next time.